Surely you guys have been seeing this TX2 blowhard all over everywhere. And if you don't, he's the dude that posts like 5,000 videos of him singing the same song over and over and over. Biggest one being that one that was like, "I'm a fuckboy dirtbag piece of shit." Or the recent song that is pretty much a gimmick based off of someone he lost from addiction, which I'm saying there's nothing wrong with that, obviously, but I'll get into my fucking issue with that in a second. And yeah, I just have an issue with the dude. The way that he blew up originally was through YouTube Shorts and TikTok, where his sounds have been shared immensely, but the biggest thing is he takes his songs and performs them with pretty much the same caption over and over and over. I guess to generate publicity with like the same people that have heard it 20 billion times. And it really doesn't help that Gen Z is eating it up. I don't understand. People are praising this dude like he is the second coming of Jesus himself brought to pop punk and emo, when in reality he is like all of the worst things of My Chem and Fall Out Boy and Paramore wrapped up in the most basic essentials from it. Musically, he's literally not doing anything that is original, that is inventive, that is putting a new spin on the genre. Bearing the torch and being a revivalist is one thing, but you're gonna run into the same issue that I've said for like the old school death metal revival. It's just stale and overplayed, and while Youngblood is killing it, I would say that Machine Gun Kelly is better than this garbage. And that's saying something, because I fucking hate Machine Gun Kelly. These dime a dozen pop-punk arena riffs that are being played out with the same vocal melodies over and over and over. The structure of everything is predictable, and you can almost pretty much always guess what word is going to be rhymed or what melody he's about to gallop into with each line. And that's not necessarily a bad thing, because I'm all for not having to reinvent the wheel to make something good, but you kind of have to put your own spin on it. And besides his nasally, annoying, gravelly, screech-singing voice, there is nothing about him that stands out physically or vocally. He looks like a thrown-together amalgamation of every stylistic person from the 2000s that tried to have the mall emo look. Next thing you know, he's going to talk about how he gave like jelly bracelets and friendship bracelets to his best friend, and his favorite YouTuber growing up was Dan Is Not On Fire and Charlie Is So Cool Like. It's like at this point he is just begging for notoriety and publicity and pretty much strawmanning that he is this tortured soul, this tortured artist that no one likes and no one cares about. Bro, you literally just blew up and you're already selling places of thousands of people. You need to shut the fuck up. Especially when you're trying to appeal to a crowd that, by your own admission, are outcasts and misfits. Why do you care what any of these people think? And why are you picking out comments that literally no one cares about or reply to? It's just so cringy. It's pure cringe, dude. And he's priding himself on being like this new wave of emo, this new wave of pop punk, as if he isn't recycling the same ideas that not only were bands doing decades ago. To kind of have a new wave, you need to, put your own spin on it. You need to reinvent in some way. You need to make that next wave, because by definition, if you have two waves of something, when you get the second wave or when you get the third wave, there is something that is noticeably different between the waves. I thought that this would be common fucking sense. You can't say you're a spearheader, this pariah of the outcasts of emo and pop punk, when you're not only doing things that other people in the contemporary scene were doing before you, and better, and with more commercial viability, with more strong songwriting, but also when you're just cherry picking the most basic of ideas from the past. You gotta make it make sense, brother. And even though he's being praised for something that plenty of artists are doing better than him, namely Youngblood, which of course I have to briefly mention the fact that everyone thinks he's the only one reviving these sounds. I'll let Dollar Tree Youngblood breathe for a second. What I don't like is how gimmicky he comes across with his captions and marketing. Walking Dead Man is the thing that's blowing up recently, and he is selling this thing as a song dedicated to someone in his life that he lost to addiction. And lyrically, it is a pretty on-the-nose song, but it has a good message. And addiction's a nasty thing. It shouldn't be trifled with, and you should never sell someone short for talking about it. And him making this song isn't my issue with him. It's the emojis and the way that he comes across, where it seems so brutally insensitive and makes me wonder if it even happened. And for the sake of like being kind, I'm not gonna gonna accuse this dude of lying, but when he is dedicating this song to someone that he lost to addiction, it's hard to not feel like he's not trying to profit off of it when he's putting all these crying and sobbing emojis and putting his videos and shorts and reels up, making these sobbing, crying things and flailing around with this fisheye lens camera behind him and his all goth get up. It's just weird. Not to mention, dude literally made a song about his toxic ex, which that's perfectly fine in the industry. That's what 99% of pop punk's about. It's the fact that this person made a very reasonable email to him, asking extremely respectfully for him to lay off, leave her alone, and stop broadcasting her entire story in front of tens of thousands, millions of people. Now, I'm not going to comment on the intricacies of stuff because I do think everyone has the right to make art, to make music about other people, but not only did he publicize this person's email, he literally has been publicly putting her on blast, which, like I said, I don't want to go too far down into that rabbit hole without knowing the details of it, but considering how much he loves to profit off of the most basic of necessities, it's hard not to feel like he's not trying to capitalize on extremely basic things that are massively appealing, and acting so surprised when it blows up, as if he isn't literally making generic songs about heartbreak and addiction and being this misfit that society just doesn't understand. It's deeper than you could ever possibly know. Even when you look back at the best emo bands of like the 2000s and the My Chems, the Hawthorne Heights and stuff, they had a lot of angst, but you felt like it was coming from a real place. Melodically, stylistically, merchandise-wise, branding, this all just feels almost like an act. And there's nothing wrong with that if you establish that you're putting on a character, but he is selling very extreme topics to a lot of young people on TikTok and YouTube Shorts. And it doesn't help that he is being constantly supported with people that are in their 20s, 30s, people like me who grew up with that style and are like, you're reviving it, you're bringing it back! You're not weird or quirky or a trailblazer for making little shorts and reels about your songs, about how much you hate religion, how you have religious trauma, how you're a misfit that society just doesn't really understand, and you're so bullied and you had a toxic ex and people just don't understand the way you look. It's like bitch took the handbook of like what sells in pop punk circa 2003 and was like, what would be playing in a mall if you walked by a Hot Topic? And it pisses me off because it seems like the two types of fans he has are people who think he's super revolutionary and doing shit no one has ever done before, despite the fact that they're in their 20s and 30s and are literally hearing this regurgitated garbage from their youth, or even worse, or I don't even know if it's any worse, people who literally think he is the best thing since sliced bread because they don't know any better. I can't be the only one that thinks that the way that he markets such serious topics that really does mean a lot in such a playful way is just creepy. I'm all for talking about these serious topics that he talks about. Things like transphobia and politics in the USA right now and not fitting in or toxic exes or whatever it may be. I definitely am for that. I love hearing representation in music and art forms and people expressing themselves and talking about shit they believe in. But I'm gonna harken back to what I said earlier. Childish, this weird gleeful demeanor to everything, like he's poking fun at it and playing with the idea of it as if he is going to profit off of the rage of people, and that's what happened. He started to cherry pick little individual comments that would have like no likes on his TikToks of someone saying, I don't really like this video, or saying some basic Playground 2009 Call of Duty lobby playground insult of like, go kill yourself, and acting like that was the determining factor, the defining thing of his career, as if you go under the actual comment section and it's thousands upon thousands of people being like, you go, you're so strong, you're so awesome. I'm really not seeing the widespread hate that he is crying wolf about. Maybe it's a negativity bias thing, I don't know. But just everything about the allure of him feels so fake to me. Like a disingenuous version of all of the bare bones essentials, like I said, that he is pulling from and gripping for. And when you're dealing with topics like this, you don't have delicacy, you don't have any sort of sensitivity to the matter. And I understand, people cope in different ways. But if you really lost your friend to addiction and wrote an entire song about it, I don't think you'd be posing in these suicidal and depressing areas, putting on all of this makeup and this getup and making these crying faces and putting sob emojis and heart hands in your captions. It feels like you are baiting for some sort of reaction from people. Even like the music aside, when you're dealing with such an intense message and you're trying to go for that, what are you trying to accomplish? Because here's the thing, he is acting like he's trying to relate to people and get his story out there. Then why are you doing it in such a gimmicky, childlike, gleeful way? It's like a quagmire. It's like some sort of like funeral fantasy. It's a graveyard anthem. And it feels like a quagmire of all of the worst traits of Gen Z marketing. And maybe I'm wrong in this. Y'all can tell me if you disagree. I just think it's weird. I think it's goofy. I think it's gross. And if you're looking for emo and pop punk revivalists, there are plenty of bands that are doing it with the same grit, energy, and edge that TX2 is trying to encompass, but failing miserably in the most commercially appealing way and marketing it in such a weird fashion. It's borderline disturbing. Maybe make new material instead of just making the same short 1,000 times in different places. We get it. You're so tortured. Maybe it's just my opinion, but I think when you have genuine emotion in your art and music, it doesn't come across in this way. Bitch took the drippings of all of the worst traits of pop punk and emo and called it a day. But I guess people are hungry for it. What are your opinions of this dude? Let me know down below. And like this video if you enjoyed it. Subscribe to join the review family today and smash that notification button.